On April 2nd, 2025, President Trump announced the largest tax increase in the history of our country, over $600 billion in new tariffs, not just on our adversaries, but also on some of our allies as well. And all of that has now triggered conversations of a potential recession and also of trade wars. On top of all that, we've seen an over 20% drop in the stock market, which now places it in bear market territory. The question though is, are tariffs only bad? My goal with this video today is to actually teach you what's really happening in our economy as it relates to tariffs. There's so much conflicting messaging out there. Some people think they're terrible. Some people think they're great. I want to give it to you straight and give you the good, the bad, and the ugly about everything tariff related. Students of free market capitalism typically are advocates of free trade. And free trade means no tariffs, both ways. And therein lies the problem. For years, the United States has been playing by rules that nobody else is following, and it's enriching those other countries while costing us trillions of dollars. We've been lowering or eliminating tariffs for decades in the name of global cooperation. But other countries, they have not returned the favor. They've instead decided to place tariffs on our goods as a way of enriching themselves at our expense. Let's use Vietnam as an example. If they've got, let's say, a 60% tariff on US autos and maybe a 30% tariff on other countries' autos, here's exactly how that impacts us. You see, the Vietnamese people, they're not going to buy a GM or a Ford with a 60% tariff on it. Instead, what they're going to do is they're going to buy a Toyota or a Hyundai with a 30% tariff because it's going to be cheaper and it will be a comparable vehicle for them to drive. What does that actually mean for us as a country? Well, first things first, that means that GM and Ford, they're going to produce fewer cars. That means that GM and Ford will hire and employ fewer workers. That means their current workers will experience slower wage growth, and that means that those workers are going to spend less money at Olive Garden, on Amazon, at Dick's Sporting Goods. They're going to buy fewer computers with Microsoft installed that use NVIDIA chips. So in other words, it actually hamstrings our economy. So the most useful purpose of tariffs might be to actually create fair trade and hopefully eventually get every other single country to stop assessing tariffs on our goods, which gives our companies and our economy a chance to grow without actually being disadvantaged over and over and over again. Now, why is that important? Well, it's important because we now, the United States, we have $36 trillion of debt that we need to pay back. That's $36 trillion of debt that we have taken on while being taken advantage of by other countries. And the debt keeps getting refinanced at higher and higher rates. Roughly half of that 36 trillion has to be refinanced between 2025 and the end of 2027. And interest rates are a heck of a lot higher now than they were when that debt was first taken out. Now, the only ways for us to actually pay that debt down are for us to cut spending, and we also have to grow the economy as fast as possible. So slowing our economic growth while we're playing nice in the sandbox and we're enriching other countries, all while our debt continues to spiral out of control, that's no longer an option. So this is why tariffs may actually be a good thing for us. This is where tariffs may actually have value. Now, we can argue that maybe the rollout has been a bit chaotic, but there certainly is potential value for these tariffs and this overall tariff strategy. If your head is spinning as it relates to the most recent political, economic, and stock market related headlines, do me a favor, subscribe to this channel, like this video, hit the notification bell, and I'll make sure that I do everything I can to give it to you straight so that you understand everything that's happening. Now, on the flip side, this is likely going to bring some short-term pain, and we really don't know how long that pain's going to last. And I'm not talking about a drawdown in the stock market as pain, because I've talked about this in several other videos. Smart investors realize that whenever there's a market drawdown, that's a time to be opportunistic. I mean, that is when good investors, smart investors, disciplined investors, prudent investors make money. So the pain I'm talking about is related to Main Street businesses. And if you think about this, small businesses, which is typically defined as those companies with 49 and fewer employees, they employ about 50% of the private workforce in our country, and they generate about half of our economic output. So a very substantial portion of our economy. And I can tell you, as a member of YPO, Young Presidents Organization, and EO, Entrepreneurs Organization, I am talking to these business owners on Main Street every single day. And I will tell you, almost all of them are in wait and see mode. They're scared, they're cautious, they're nervous, they don't know what to expect. As I mentioned earlier, the rollout has been a bit chaotic, maybe very disorderly. Tariff policies changing day by day. Within the administration, you've got people playing good cop, bad cop, sending mixed messages. That has business owners frozen. And until there is some clarity and certainty, business owners are not going to thaw out and actually be able to get back to executing on their vision. They're not going to be hiring people. They're not going to be buying that extra piece of equipment. They're not going to be implementing their growth initiatives. And I can tell you, the longer this controversy, the unknown, drags on, the more short-term damage our economy is going to experience. And, while the stock market may snap back rather quickly, Main Street businesses can be banged up for much, much longer. And that's why, in my opinion, the most important piece of economic data I'm paying attention to, and I believe you should be paying attention to right now to really gauge the immediate and midterm impact of tariffs, is the NFIB Small Business Optimism Index. Over the last 51 years, that number has averaged 98. So you could assume that when that number's above 98, business owners are rather optimistic. They're going to spend, they're going to hire people, they're going to buy new machinery and equipment. But when it's below 98 and trending lower, and it recently has dropped below that, when you see it start to go below 98, it's very likely that small businesses are beginning to tighten their belt buckles and that they're afraid of a potential economic slowdown. So here's the bottom line. We need clarity on what the tariff landscape is actually going to look like so business owners can get back to executing. That's what we want them to do. We want them to generate business, to have economic output, to stimulate the economy. The longer it takes, the more pain we're going to see inflicted on Main Street. And I'll tell you, there is likely value in tariffs. However, if the rollout continues to be disorderly and chaotic, that could lead to some unnecessary and undue pain for those of us on Main Street. If you enjoy watching these videos, please do me a favor, like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you get notifications every time we post a new piece of content. And probably most importantly, I want to hear your feedback. I want your comments, so enter your comments below. The question I have for you is, what do you make of tariffs? Do you think they're good or bad? And please tell me why. See you next time.